Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a friend from across the pond today. I have Gus coming all the way from the UK, and we're going to be chatting about a good topic today. So let me just pop that right up. Okay, our topic today is LinkedIn, your gateway to a world of opportunity. And this is a world of opportunity because I get to talk to Gus across the pond. So before we get stuck in, Gus, can you please introduce yourself, let people know who you are and what you do, and then we'll start chatting.
Absolutely. Gillian, first of all, thank you for inviting me on. And obviously, you're a legend on LinkedIn, and it's a pleasure to be here. So, my name is Gus Bhandal. I am I am the UK's #1 LinkedIn trainer, according to my mum. But I'm a social media manager. I'm a LinkedIn trainer. I'm a marketing strategist. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And not necessarily in that order. So that's what I am.
I love that. I love that. And Gus, you're wearing your brand colors, and that's what I absolutely love because it's like it's funny. Last week we were talking about background photos, banners. I call them banners, but your background photo, and we were talking about brand colors and how important it is. And I love that yours is orange and black, very Halloweenish, very
Yeah,
tigerish. It's
absolutely.
depending on what slant you want to go. Let's go with tiger. I like it's like
Yeah, of
fierce
course.
and powerful, much better than Halloween. So actually, can you kind of just tell us the story of Orange and Black? Where did that come from?
Absolutely, yeah. So many years ago, I used to run marketing workshops, and I don't know if you get them in the States, but in the UK we have Terry's chocolate oranges. So it's
Yes.
basically and so what I used to do in my marketing workshops was basically hand these out and say, what does a Terry's chocolate orange teach you about marketing? And it's all about segmentation and segmenting an audience and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I used to teach people. Then when I started my business, I said, but I had a branding specialist come in. And actually, at the time, I chose purple and silver because I thought these colors would go together. And actually, they were awful. So I said, right, I need something that is warm. Um, and we settled with orange, and and I said, oh, of course, it should be orange because of the whole chocolate orange thing. And then it just stuck from there. And particularly like when I do email marketing, when I send out lead magnets and all that kind of stuff, I send out chocolate to clients, etc. And it just exasperated from there. So I send out a lot of orange chocolate. I get a lot of Christmas as well, and yeah, it's all that brand congruence, isn't it? It's that consistency of when people think of something, they think of me.
I love
So
it. I love it. And I remember recently seeing one of your posts, Gus, and you had orange sneakers. And I was just like, wow, I've never seen anybody. Well, maybe John Asperian, he has fancy sneakers that are his brand
yeah.
colors too. But like that's like kind of taking it up a notch. And I see people, they have jackets and certain colors and this and that. And I'm just black. I'm just like boring. Oh,
Yeah.
black. I don't do
No,
anything
no,
special.
nothing boring about that. No, and it is that. It's when people see you. So I went to an event in London the other day, and I was at the train station, and a lady walked up to me and said, "You're Gus, aren't you?" And I said, "How do you know that?" She said, "I recognize the sneakers." And I said, I mean, in the UK, she said trainers, obviously, but for the purposes of this conversation, she said, "Oh, I recognize the sneakers." And it's somebody I've been connected to on LinkedIn for a while, but we've never met in person. We live in the same city or live close to each other. And she recognized me on the train station platform because of my trainers. So it's just those little elements that help people to, you know, to make, have thoughts and think about others, etc., and how they are.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so we talked about today we're talking about LinkedIn can be a gateway to a world of opportunity. So I'm going to kick it over to you and just say what sort of worldwide opportunities when we say that phrase, what does that mean to you?
Wow. Yeah, it's a really big question actually, because and in the conversation that we had leading up to this, I think the thing is, one of the things that I use LinkedIn for is to find new people, to connect to new people, to have conversations, etc. And one of the reasons I hung my hat on LinkedIn. So I'm a social media trainer, so I can more or less deal with most social media platforms. But LinkedIn is the #1 platform for me because it's where I have conversations and where I meet people and where I make connections, etc. And for me, the opportunities have really come in terms of getting business, getting clients, making money, getting speaking gigs, etc. But most importantly, it's making connections with good people everywhere around the world. And obviously, for some people that may know, and obviously you and I know that you will be a guest speaker at our LinkedIn conference that I'm running with John Esperian and Jeremy Freeman. So, and that's, you're coming all the way from the States to speak at an event which is 20 minutes from my home, basically. And and it's those global opportunities of, you get to know someone well enough across the world, you get to know them, you get to really kind of deep dive into their lives and learn all about them, realize that they're an authority on what they're talking about, realize that they're great people as well, and then kind of invite them to be a part of your event, for example. And it's just that LinkedIn makes the world a singular small place, in my opinion.
Oh, I absolutely agree, and it was interesting yesterday, I was on a Zoom call with friends that I've met through LinkedIn, and I had somebody from the United States, I was in the United States, and then we had somebody from Scotland, and we had somebody from Belgium, and we had somebody from Dubai. And the
Wow.
hardest part is like, and literally the person from Dubai and I were exactly 12 hours apart with our time zones. So
Mm.
you just go, as long as you can figure out time zones, you can actually make anything work on LinkedIn. It's just
Yeah.
incredible like that. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and initially, before we went live, I kind of said, "Oh, what time is it in Las Vegas?" And you said, "Well, it's this time in Las Vegas, but I'm actually in this place over here." And it's like, even across the states, there's lots of different time zones, etc. And then we have Europe and Australia and all the other kind of stuff. Like you said, as long as we can make the timings work, it's that's the most important thing. I had a conversation with Michelle J. Raymond in Australia, and for me, it was just like a normal time kind of thing. And I said, "Oh, what time is it there?" And she said, "Oh, it's about like 3 o'clock in the morning or something." And I was like, "What?" So it's a great. So it was a real pleasure for me to talk to her, for example. But yeah,
I
it's
love that. I love that.
yeah,
And that was like when Ashley Leeds had his 200th and I said,
mm,
"Okay, I'll come." He asked me if I'd
yeah,
come and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning for me. So I
yeah.
was a little bit like punchy, but other
Mm.
than that, how do you just go, sleep's relative.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Sleep when we're dead. That's the main thing. So,
absolutely,
which will be a
absolutely.
long time, yeah, just to clarify.
Yes, yes, just
Yeah.
so we're
So,
clear, just so we're clear.
yeah.
So we get to know people and I'm with you, Gus. That is the number one thing I like about LinkedIn is that you get to know people and it's kind of funny because sometimes you get to know people halfway across the world or maybe
Mm,
totally across the world. And then sometimes you actually meet people on LinkedIn and you go, "Oh, we live in the same city. How crazy
yeah.
is this? Let's go for a coffee." Or you travel and then you're like, "Oh, while I'm over here in this part of the world, I'll go see these people." And you're
Mm,
constantly see people like, going on. I think Mark Williams right now is like over in New Zealand. He met with
yeah.
Lanier Johnston. They stop, they have a selfie, they meet for coffee. So
Mm,
you get to know people locally, globally, and all the rest. And I think it's also probably one of the best ways because, like, I've been following what you've been doing with your posting lately, Gus, and you've been doing speaking,
yeah.
so many different speaking gigs. So, would you say that LinkedIn helped contribute to you getting those speaking gigs?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think so. There's two elements to this because the first element is using LinkedIn to show authority, to show that you know what you're talking about, to give value, to become a trusted person, for example. And then on the flip side, there's LinkedIn where people can search for you and search for particular people. For example, again, relating to the speaking gig I had in London last week, when I asked them, "Well, how did you find me?" Because I had never heard of the organization itself. It's actually a massive organization, thousands of people around the world involved with it. And I said, "How did you hear about me?" They said, "We just typed in social media speaker into LinkedIn and you came up top." And I was like, "Amazing." That's great. Yeah. And they said, obviously to do our due diligence, we went through your profile. We see that you do other gigs. We saw photos from you doing speaking gigs and all that kind of stuff. And then we looked through your content. We realized that actually you know what you're talking about. So, we'd like to invite you to come and speak. And LinkedIn is that world of opportunity in terms of if there's something that you want to do, if there's something that you want to achieve. I think, manifestation is one thing, but you have to put it into action. And I think LinkedIn is the best platform to put that into action.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And I love that, you basically nailed it in terms of first they have to find you. So
Mm,
that's number one. So optimizing our LinkedIn profiles to make ourselves more searchable. But
mm,
then once they get to your profile, it has to be like it resonates for them, and it has to be complete and show your credibility and your expertise. And then they go through and look at all, okay, so, has this guy done other speaking? And I have to say, you have a really nicely laid out profile with, I can
Thank you.
click on all sorts of different media. I always check from a video perspective. I always love to
Of
go
course.
and see people's profiles. And it was just like you had a show reel of a master class. And so
Mm.
I thought that was that. Actually, could you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's kind of one thing that people go, do I need a speaker reel, show reels? Like sort of how did you get that? Because that was nicely done.
So thank you so much. Yeah. So I'll tell you the positive and the negative of this, because when so I started doing more and more speaking gigs, and then I saw lots of show reels, and I saw others kind of speakers show reels. Andrew Davis in particular from the States. I mean, he's one of my marketing heroes, and his show reel is great. So I was like, I really need a show reel. So I essentially hired a videographer to follow me around and come to the speaking gigs that I've got, etc. But then when I started applying for bigger gigs, bigger speaking gigs, they kind of said, well, a show reel isn't good enough, we actually need to see a full video kind of start to finish.
Mm,
So my initial brief technically was incorrect, so I've flipped it now. So the videographer is still following me around, but now I've got them to film me start to finish, and soon my YouTube channel will be focused on the speaking gigs that I have. So so my whole YouTube channel becomes a place where people learn about the fact that I'm a good public speaker. So I think video is so important. I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that I'm brilliant at what I do. Whether you believe me or not is a different matter. But if you see it in the flesh and you think, if I can talk about different subjects around marketing or LinkedIn or social media, if I can hold an audience, if I can say the right things, if I can kind of miss out the ums and the ahs and all that kind of stuff, um, I then get other speaking gigs, which ultimately are a means to an end, because that's the way I get more clients. So I speak, I
mm.
show authority, I show value, and eventually people kind of come to me afterwards and say, oh, actually, I'd like to use your services. And that's kind of the point. So I think it all starts with the video. I think video is really important. So, but yeah, like I said, the show reels are one thing, but I've changed tack to actually try and get the whole thing recorded now. The show reels are more of a personal show off kind of thing, whereas the longer videos are what people actually want to see.
I like that. I like that. And then you can see that down the road, having both could come in handy based upon what people want. Do they just want a quick taste, and then they want to kind of take the next step and then say, okay, now I want to go through all of it. So that's
Mm,
good. So and I saw too that you had done a post and you talked about when, and this is something I actually recommend to people, is when you ask somebody to photograph you. I think it's stellar that you have a photographer and you've hired
mm,
someone to come to you, because it's just going to be so much more professional. But
mm,
even I had a client the other day and she was going to go do a presentation. And I said, have somebody take some video of you walking to the stage, because
mm,
that kind of gets you in that mood to speak anyways. But
yeah.
also too, you can always, even if there's cruddy sound and stuff, you can always do voiceovers later. But there's just something about, take every opportunity where you're getting on the stage, get somebody to film you, because
Mm,
later it can all be part of your speaker reel, show reel, whatever you want to call it. And all those
mm.
little bits come in handy. So, but you talked about that with, have somebody film you getting up there.
Yeah, the post. So in particular, so another speaking gig that I had. So it was for an event called Social Day, a massive kind of social media event. They hired, like, they had a videographer and a photographer, and I spoke to, and a couple of them I knew in advance, but I spoke to the videographer in particular, and I said, listen, I always sit at the back. I like to gather my thoughts. I like to take in the venue. But then when I stand up and walk to the front, so when they call my name, can you video that bit? Because what he was doing was he was only filming the talk. And I said, I'd
Mm,
like you to film from the moment I get up. So I sat at the back of the room. And I always sit at the back of the room for that reason. So he did. So he filmed me. And actually, somebody dropped a glass, which made a massive noise. And it kind of, so I said, oh, actually, can we do that again? So, and he said, I'm just going to keep rolling. So I walked back to the back of the room and turned around and did it again. But it was the two elements of that is, it's really good footage, and particularly for show reels and things like that, the walking in kind of is obviously the beginning of a video. um but the second element is also the videographer said to me that I was the only speaker from the day that actually spoke to him. So he gave me lots of advice about where to stand, how to talk, how to enunciate, how to hold the mic, and all that kind of stuff, which obviously he didn't do with any of the other speakers. So he was very grateful that I spoke to him. And actually, we then had a long conversation about the fact that 6 months ago his mother had died, and things like that. So it became a much longer conversation, and he was just grateful of having the conversation. So although it started as a selfish conversation for me to tell him, "Can you film me?" It kind of went into, we got to know each other, we connected on LinkedIn, we kind of, we shared contact details and all that kind of stuff. And I know that we'll hopefully use each other in the future. So it's just, there's a lot to speaking gigs and videoing to capture those elements where people make you, in essence, make you look good. That's the main thing.
I love that. I love that. And, and that leads us, I want to take a break and go get some comments in that, but I'd like to come back and talk about getting to know people, and allowing people to get to know you, because I think
Mm,
that's like we had talked earlier, your tone of voice, using humor, not using humor. These are all elements, congruence in your brand. So let's
mm,
come back and talk about that. But let me
sure.
take a couple of questions or comments, questions. What so we've got Jeff Young always in the front row, who we always love cheering us on. We're pulling 5 Gs on today's live, talking about
Love Jeff.
gateway to opportunity with Gillian and Gus, the M guru, and this guru, meaning me, in the front row. So we've got
Absolutely.
guru, we got guru squared. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
so Jeff Young and I have never spoken, but everybody knows Jeff, and obviously he is the LinkedIn guru. And originally, when I started my business, I was like, I'm going to call myself the LinkedIn guru, and I searched for the hashtag, and Jeff came up, and I was like, okay, cool. I looked through Jeff's content, and I was like, oh, actually, he really is the LinkedIn guru. This guy's a legend, kind of thing. And now is like you. So there are particular people that you can't mention LinkedIn without mentioning particular people, and Jeff is definitely one of them. So I really appreciate Jeff's comment and his support here. So yeah, fabulous.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's great. That's great. We have Lois Quiff, who we both know. Hello, geez.
Can't
So
stand Lois. Yeah, I can't. Yeah. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah, I love Lois. She's one of my faves. One of my faves, absolutely.
so G plus G, we've got G force going on here
Yes,
today. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's the G's.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Poor Marcia. She's still struggling with her profile not showing up. Hello, Jillian and Gus, signing in from Washington, D.C. Love the orange. So,
Ah, thank
the orange is just amazing. And just to let my American friends know, you do have to search a little to find Terry's chocolate here. So you got to go to an import store. That's where you got to go, like World Market or somewhere like that. It's not in Walmart, guys.
you. Yeah.
You have to search a little bit, but it's worth the search. It's worth the search. So we have Kevin D. Turner, who you are also bringing over to Uplift Live. You got
Yeah.
Kevin D. Turner.
Absolutely. We absolutely can't wait to see both yourself and Kevin. Well, obviously all the speakers, but coming over from the States, yeah, and it'll be the first time obviously we're across the world, first time I'll meet Kevin. He's gonna get the biggest hug from me, whether he wants it or not. So yeah, I absolutely love Kevin. And Kevin's another one where when you talk about LinkedIn, you talk about Kevin and you talk about everything that Kevin does, and particularly just like John Espirian, they're very much like they're the researchers, they're the explorers, they're the ones that really learn and kind of deep dive and delve into things, which ultimately helps the rest of us LinkedIn trainers to teach our clients and our teams and our friends and our clients and all that kind of stuff. And it's yeah, so yeah, I love Kevin.
Me too. Me too. So thank you for being here today, Kevin. And another thumbs up for the orange. So the orange
Yeah.
is just it
Uh,
does so well, guys. It does so well. So we've got Jeff talking to Marcia. Okay, we have our common buddy here. We have John Espirian. Good to see you both joining again via YouTube. So John's all over the place. Sometimes he comes in
yeah.
via LinkedIn,
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
YouTube.
fascinating. Yeah, yeah, it's great, and obviously, yeah, John is absolutely one of my faves, and yeah, it's as you know, we're running a LinkedIn conference together, and kind of he came to me and said, "Gus, I'm looking for somebody brilliant to run a LinkedIn conference with." I said, "Great," and he said, "I don't suppose you know anyone." So yeah, so after much delving, I eventually said, "You know what, let's just stick with me, shall we?" And yeah, so myself, John, and Jeremy Freeman were yeah, it's. We've sold well over 100 tickets. We've got a massive venue. We've got 8 brilliant speakers. Yeah, just absolutely can't wait. And always a pleasure to see John.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I love the humor that you use, Gus, and I remember the first time I saw your headline as the UK's so what's the headline?
So
So I'm quoting it right.
The UK's number one asterisk LinkedIn trainer, and then the asterisk is according to my mum, and you know the reason. So it's one of these things. I used to it obviously it's tongue in cheek, but it started as a joke against those people that call themselves social media kings, social media gurus, you know, and all this other kind of stuff. And particularly when people have no credentials. And I'm not saying that I have credentials, but I see a lot of that. So I added the asterisks and, you know, according to my mom. And it's interesting because it did two things. The first thing and the thing that I wanted it to do was it to teach people that actually I'm quite jovial and you know hopefully my personality shines through, and what it does is it attracts clients that like that humor. So I have a lot of
Mhm.
clients that come to me and say, you're very personable, you have a good personality on social media, can you try and kind of inject some personality into our content as well? And I say sure, great. But what I didn't realize was on the flip side, what it did was all the average LinkedIn trainers really threw up, you know, they really kind of like got upset about it. And I had lots of DMs from these average LinkedIn trainers that say, oh, you know, what gives you the right to call yourself that? And I said, right, you gotta argue with my mom. It's got nothing to do with me, you know? So yeah, and it's interesting. You kind of, you know, they all came out of the weeds. But the important thing is that the majority of people like yourself and John and Kevin and Jeff and all the rest of it, you know, you find it. Hopefully, you find it funny. You know that you know
Yes.
there's no real quantifiable kind of status behind it, but you know it's according to my mum, so that's the funny bit kind of thing. And obviously,
That's
like I said, it's the personality element.
Yeah, and I love that because we have to let our personality come through because that to me is what separates us from everybody else. And I know when I first started doing videos way back when I was like behind the camera and not in front of the camera, I would be doing something and I would always mess up and I'd go oops, oops, and I was working so hard to cut it out, and one day I just went there's too many oops. There's
Yeah,
too many oops, and I just went you know what? Maybe other people make mistakes. And so me seeing me go oops and say, well, actually, here's how you correct that. Maybe
mm,
that's a good thing. And that shows who I am because I don't do it perfect. You
mm,
watching aren't going to do it perfect either. And then I found people do like to hear the whoops and go, oh, yeah, I thought it was just me. How come that
mm.
never seems to save? All those like goofy things. And I still do that. I do that with everything I do. I just let the oopses take care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's real life, right? Again, it shows personality. I think, you know, like me, some of the best videos that I watch online are blooper reels kind of thing. I love blooper reels. They absolutely kill me. You know, and particularly when it's a serious show and then you see the blooper reels and and it's that thing of that personality, the fact that no one's perfect, the fact that actually what happens to us happens to others, etc. So it's and again, a lot of LinkedIn is finding an audience where things resonate, where
Mm,
you have common goals and you have common thoughts and common feelings and common actions, etc. And when things resonate with others, you create a group of followers, a group of connections, a group of friends that ultimately quite frankly, you're in the same boat, for want of a better phrase.
I like that. I like that. And I think it's so true too that like when you can be real, then when people, especially for instance for a speaking gig, if your real personality didn't come through and then you showed up and it's like you were like this really stressed out serious person and they were like, "Well, we thought you were kind of like light and,
Mm,
kind of jovial and this and that." And you're just like, "No, that's just how I like to look."
yeah.
Or whatever, then there's no congruence there. And you
Mm.
just go, oh, this is not working.
You know, I don't know why that reminds me, but so last week I delivered a 1 hour talk about how to be consistent and congruent and efficient on social media. And it was a 1 hour talk to a room of 300 people, etc. And just in the middle of it, I told a joke about Santa Claus. And I basically said that going to see Santa Claus is quite expensive. And if I wanted to see a badly dressed fat man with a beard, I would just look in the mirror. And I said to the audience, I said, listen, I'm talking for an hour here. Please don't make that your takeaway. And so many people mentioned that on LinkedIn. And I said, no, that's not the takeaway. But it's the point is I said something humorous that they found humorous, and then they shared that. And it's that element of it's something that they found funny. It's something that they want to talk about. So aside from all the learning and everything else, etc., it was that they picked out the bit that showed personality, that showed humor, etc., because it either resonated with them, or they found it funny, or it was, you know, it was the standout moment for them. So so yeah, we have to have these moments.
I love that. I love that. So, since you do social media marketing across many different platforms, and some of us just do one, like we might just say, I just do LinkedIn. I actually do LinkedIn and I dabble in YouTube. So, those are my two channels, but I don't do anything else. And I'd have to ask you, is it difficult to maintain that congruence off of, like, if you're also doing Instagram and Facebook and this and that, can you keep it all in alignment?
The one of the things that all marketers say is always be yourself. And although nowadays it's become a bit of a cliche and it's become a bit trite, the thing is, it's really difficult to actually be yourself. Most people
Mhm.
create a persona, they try and live up to something, or they try and talk how they think others want them to talk. But the point is, if you are really intentional with being yourself, then you can be the same everywhere. And that congruence, because quite frankly, if you are intentionally yourself, that congruence with the consistency will shine through on every platform. And when I was young, my mother said to me, if you never lie, no, sorry, if you are always yourself, you never have to remember any lies.
Mhm.
And it's that kind of thing. If you are always don't pretend to be some, and live up to other people's expectations. Just be yourself, and the your vibe attracts your tribe and all that kind of stuff. So and I think particularly when it comes to social media, I'm very lucky because I'm a company of one. So for me, I can just be myself on every channel. I think it's harder when there's a brand, so you have to kind of almost live up to the brand ideals. But again, there's various things: colors, tone of voice, fonts, language, etc. So I think congruence is really important because you want to be the same shape everywhere.
I love that. That's a good summary, that it's like, at the end of the day, just be yourself. Plus, I just have to tell you, I wanna meet your mom because, well, we call him mom in the States. I know in England
Yeah,
it's mum, M-U-M,
yeah,
and, and I had a mom. My mom was born in England, and she
mm,
was like,
oh
"Never
wow,
call me mom. That's
yeah,
not how it's done."
yeah.
And, but I would love to meet your mom because she sounds like she just has so much wisdom, and I have to ask, what does she think about your tagline with, "According to your mom"?
So, she's because my mother's from India. She's like her English isn't great, but it's that when I kind of explain to her about my business is called the M Guru, and I'm the marketing guru, and I do this, and this is I tell everybody that you say I'm the UK's number one LinkedIn trainer. To be honest, it more or less goes over her head. It's kind of she's very like yeah, whatever kind of thing. She says, as long as you're not saying anything bad about me, that's fine. But in any case, she's the important thing is she's proud of me. So that's I think that's the thing. So but she generally, I mean, don't tell anyone else, but generally she doesn't really know what LinkedIn is. So let's not worry about that.
I know that, I know that. That's just so cute. That's so cute. And, sometimes really truly our mothers are our biggest fans. I
Mm.
remember my mother has passed away now, but I remember when my mother had passed away and I went through all of her effects and you're sorting everything. And one of the things I came across was a binder, and she had printed out my blog. My mom, like, my mom didn't
Oh,
like to read on the internet. So she
yeah,
printed my blog and she printed it in color. And I just imagined, like, and she had advertisements on it, like, it was just,
yeah,
like, 7 pages for 3 paragraphs or something. But,
yeah,
the takeaway was you realize, oh, she was just so proud, and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just like, I was
They care.
blogging about my kids or something. It was
Yeah,
nothing, fancy. So you're just like, if my mom saw me on a live stream today, she'd be like, "Oh my gosh."
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Whereas, my mom would like she tells everybody behind my back how proud of me she is and how much she loves me and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, when I see her, then she's like, "Oh, look, you're putting on weight. Why are you wearing those silly trainers? What are you doing? And all that kind of stuff." So yeah, there's it's a dichotomy of parenthood, I guess.
Love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, so we have almost reached the end of our 30 minutes, Gus. So, would you like to kind of sum everything up with like some sort of golden takeaway for us? Wrap it up in orange paper
Ooh,
for us.
absolutely, absolutely. So, how can I put it? So, LinkedIn is the place where you connect to people, you become intentionally you, and you have conversations which ultimately grow to have conversations with other people. And I always use the analogy of the octopus tentacles. So they kind of go through the network and they start sucking people back into you. So it's second degree connections, third degree connections, people who run events, people who need LinkedIn training, corporate firms, one to one, all that kind of stuff. And it's LinkedIn is the world of opportunity because now that there's a roughly around 1 billion people on there and it's ever growing, it's business professionals that want to engage with each other, talk to each other, and just generally connect. And I always call LinkedIn the digital water cooler. It's the place where we go, like we're at work and we talk about work, but then we go around the digital cooler, the water cooler, to talk about things outside of work but still with our professional colleagues. And that's how I see LinkedIn. So it's having those conversations around the digital water cooler to get people to know us, like us, and hopefully trust us.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here today, being on the show, sharing your expertise and your knowledge. We appreciate it. Everybody, please, for homework, go and follow Gus, connect with Gus, send him a lovely note.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, just thank you again for being here. And thank you to our audience, everybody who is watching the show, watching the replay, or joining on the podcast. Uh, Thank you very much for joining today. And we'll see you all again next week.
The
Okay.
pleasure was all mine. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Gillian. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye,
Okay.
guys.
Bye, everybody.